Namaste, and welcome to our continuing series on the life divine with our beloved Ranga. We are on page 446, beginning with the sentence, but then we note that in each case, the hallucination.
Yeah. So, since it was some time ago, what I propose to do is, I will tell you what Sri Aurobindo has to say about the whole matter. Okay? Then we will read and it will become clear. So, Shankara is saying, I am just giving you Shankara's, there are three things. One is what the Mayavada philosophy is and what the sense of illusion is. The second is what Shankara is giving images to show the truth of Mayavada. Truth or untruth, whatever it is. Then, what is Sri Aurobindo's comment on it? So, this I will do, then we will read what we are doing. Because if you go into details right from the beginning, then it is a little confusing. So, if we know where we are going, I give you the whole picture first and then we are going, it becomes easier.
Good.
So, what Sri Aurobindo is saying is, first of all, the Mayavada theory. What is the Mayavada theory? The Mayavada theory and the Buddhistic theory also says that what we see here in the physical world and we take it to be absolute reality is actually not so at all. It is a total unreality. When we go out of our body-mind life and go to the consciousness of the self, we see that the physical world is unreal. There is nothing there.
Can it also be called an illusion?
It's not even an illusion. There is nothing there. There are two types of illusions. One is a sensory illusion and the other is a mental illusion, which he has described. That also I will tell you after we finish this. So, Mayavada is saying there is no reality at all to the physical world. Okay? But the experience of the self is, this is their interpretation. The interpretation of the world is non-existent. But the experience of the world is this, that there is some sort of reality, but you are not seeing what it is. I am seeing in the physical world, I am seeing a cat sitting there, but I am seeing, the cat is the reality, but I am seeing only a dog. So, there is something. But the Mayavada philosophy says there is no cat, no dog, nothing. There is nothing there. Okay? So, now Shankara is taking up the image and explaining the Mayavada theory according to the spiritual experience. He is telling you that when you are dreaming, the dream is real to you. And when you wake up, then you see the dreaming is unreal. And then the physical world is real to you. So, this is the image Shankara is using and saying that when we are in the physical world living, we see this and take it as a reality, it is actually a dream. And when we wake up spiritually and go to the self, then we see that what I was taking as reality in the physical world is only a dream, it is not real. Okay? Then he takes up also the other images, the image of the mirage and the image of the serpent and the rope. Okay? So, this is the totality. You have understood now? The Mayavada is saying there is no reality at all. Shankara is saying there is something, but you are not seeing what it is to be. There is something. It is not total unreality.
What is that something?
The divine reality, which is taking forms. So, when you are seeing a tree, the tree is only a form, but the reality of the tree is behind the form. That is what he is saying. Because the tree is there today, after 200 years it will vanish. So, what sort of a reality is that? So, it is a temporal reality. This is actually the spiritual experience, that you see things, but they are not what they seem to be. They are not as real as you thought them to be, but there is something there. So, he gives the image of, and now Sri Aurobindo is analyzing. If you go into the analysis of Sri Aurobindo, it can be quite confusing, because he goes into great detail. So, he says that the illusion that Shankara is speaking about is of two types. One is the image of the mirage. There is nothing in the desert. There is only sand and heat and sunlight. But you are seeing something there which is non-existent. You are seeing water flowing and you are seeing trees, the oasis. There is nothing like that. But your sensory perception is deceiving you. This is one. But what is interesting is that the other image, in the dark you are walking and your leg hits something which you feel to be a snake. But it's night, you don't know what it is. You just think it is snake. Yes, yeah. And when daylight comes, you see it's only a rope. Okay? So these are the two images. Now Sri says that the Mayavada philosophy is that there is no reality at all. Whereas Shankara is giving images, which is all of the images he is giving, there is some reality, but you are not seeing what it is. For instance, the trees and the water do exist somewhere else, but you are seeing them where they are not there. Follow? The serpent and the rope also, the serpent exists in the physical world, the serpent exists and the rope also exists, but you are seeing them where they are not there. So this is the nature of the, so therefore the analogy does not fit the Mayavada theory. Because the Mayavada theory is saying there is nothing and you are seeing something. It's like the mirage.
But Shankara feels you are seeing something.
Shankara feels that there is a reality.
There is
here.
a reality there.
There is a reality, but it is temporal reality.
Temporal. Very good.
It is temporal and spatial. It exists in time and space. But the Brahman exists outside time and space. It doesn't depend upon time and space. So this is the explanation of what Sri is saying. But he is going into great detail. He is examining the images and seeing how valid they are. Because he has a lot of things to say about them. For instance, he says that dreams are not at all unreal, as Shankara is suggesting. Dreams are real. They are subtler realities. And then he is also discussing hallucination. People say hallucination, the man is imagining things, but actually hallucinations are not so. It is not something unreal. There are subtler realities coming into his mind and he is speaking these things, and they have a reality there but not here.
Would you say that this could be true also of autistic children? They see things, they can play the piano immediately. They're receiving something.
Yes.
Autism.
Yeah. They are receiving influences from above which they are able to do. The autistic children are those who seem to be less developed, but actually in some areas they are very intelligent.
Yes.
Mostly they are very intelligent. And in some areas they shine like anything. But note also that all children who are shining, playing the piano, writing poetry, 5-year-old children, 6-year-old children, but they are not autistic. Autism is a child who is not able to learn because he seems to be retarded. That is autism. And also, they will not be able to, they will confuse letters. M and W, for instance, the structure is the same, but they are turned upside down. They are not able to read the sequence of letters. Okay? Suppose you say rickshaw, they will be reading it as rishka. So the sequence of letters, that is autism. Okay. So with this explanation, now I'll read where we left off last time. And that is, but then we note. Okay? So I'm reading from there. But then we note that in each case, the hallucination, the false image, is not of something quite non-existent. There you are. It is an image of something existent and real, but not present in the place on which it has been imposed by the mind's error or by sense error. Okay? There are two types of illusions, mind error and sense error. Mind error is the example he has given, the mirage. There is nothing there but you are seeing it. But note interestingly that trees and water do exist elsewhere, but you are seeing it where they are not there. Okay, so that's one. And the other one also is, you are taking a rope for a serpent, but serpent also exists and rope also exists. Therefore, the Mayavada theory is nothing exists. So it does not fit the theory. So they are saying that the images that Shankara is using does not really illustrate the point. Okay, so has been imposed mind's error or sense error. A mirage is an image of a city, an oasis, running water, or of other absent things. Other things which are absent, they are not there, but you are seeing them. Whether raised up by the mind or reflected in the desert air, would not be there to delude the mind with a false sense of reality. Okay? So, a snake exists, and its existence and form are known to the victim in the momentary hallucination. If it had not been so, the delusion would not have been created. In other words, what we discussed earlier.
Yeah, it does exist.
Yeah, it does exist somewhere else. The analogy, therefore, is unhelpful. It would be valid only if our image of the universe were falsity, reflecting true universe which is not here but elsewhere, or if it were a false imaged manifestation of the reality, replacing in the mind or covering with its distorted resemblance a true manifestation. If that Shankara was able to show, then it would be a proper one. That's what Shankara is saying. But here, the world is a non-existent form of things. Here, this sentence is referring to the Mayavada philosophy. But here in the world is a non-existent form of things. Nothing, non-existent. An illusory construction imposed on the bare reality, on the sole existent, which is forever empty of things and formless. There would be a true analogy only if our vision constructed in the void air of the desert a figure of things that exist nowhere, or else if it were imposed on a bare ground, both rope and snake and other figures that equally existed nowhere. Then it would be illustrative of the Mayavada philosophy. Okay? So in other words, what it amounts to is this, that Shankara's images are not illustrative of the Mayavada philosophy, but they are illustrative of the reality in the physical world. What is happening? The physical world is a distortion of the reality. So his images are all showing that. Okay? This rope has become a snake. The desert air has become a mirage of. So it is that is correct. That's what happens, actually. So we can go to the next para.
Mm-hmm.
It is clear that in this analogy, two quite different kinds of illusion, not illustrative of each other, are mistakenly put together as if they were identical in nature. All mental or sense hallucinations are really representations or misplacements or impossible combinations or false developments of things that are in themselves existent or possible, or in some way within or allied to the province of the real.
Interesting.
Okay? So it's very clear what he's saying. There are two types of things. So first he is discussing that the mind is seeing things which don't exist where you are seeing them, but they exist elsewhere. Okay? In the desert there is no water and no tree, but trees also exist and oases also exist elsewhere. That's one type of imagination. The other type is the sensory one, the serpent and the rope. Both exist elsewhere. One exists here and the other does not exist here. In the other one, they don't exist at all, there at all, but you are seeing elsewhere. That's a difference. There is a difference between the mirage image and the serpent and the rope image. In the serpent and the rope image, the rope is real, but you are taking it for a snake. In the mirage one, there is nothing there, but you are seeing something there.
So in the roping image, it's sensory.
Yes, that's right. So he's saying mental hallucination and sensory hallucination. Okay? So all mental or sense hallucinations are really representations or misplacements or impossible combinations or false developments of things that are in themselves existent or possible or in some way within or allied to the province of the real. Okay? All mental errors and illusions are the result of an ignorance which miscombines its data or proceeds falsely upon a previous or present or possible content of knowledge. See, the language is very difficult. That's why I gave you the first what he is saying in brief. Okay? So, because Sremda includes all sorts of different possibilities. Look at the language. Okay? All mental errors and illusions are the result of an ignorance. And what does that ignorance do? It miscombines data or proceeds falsely. So it is miscombining the data of the desert and the data of the trees and the water. It miscombining them and getting something. That's one. But Sremda also says something else also. Okay? But a cosmic illusion has no basis of actuality at all. There is no reality. Yeah, this is the one that we are reading now. But a cosmic illusion has no basis of actuality. It's an original and all originating illusion. It is showing you something which exists nowhere. It imposes names, figures, happenings that are pure inventions on a reality in which there never were and never will be any happenings, names or figures. This is the Mayavada philosophy. What you are seeing as something real exists nowhere. Whereas the images that Shankara is giving, they exist elsewhere, but not here. Okay? The analogy of mental hallucination would only be applicable if we admit a Brahman without names, forms or relations, and a world of names, forms and relations as equal realities imposed one upon the other, the rope in the place of the snake or the snake in the place of the rope. An attribution, it might be, of the activities of the Saguna to the quiescence of the Nirguna. So, the Saguna is the consciousness that sees the forms, features. Okay. But the Nirguna is that in which there is nothing. It's a featureless, impersonal, immutable consciousness that has no features at all. That's a reality. But here in the physical world, we are seeing forms and things which are not existing there in the Nirguna. They don't exist there, but they are there potentially there. That's the difference between the two. Okay. There are two types of blankness. I repeat that. Okay. One is a blankness which contains really nothing at all. The other is a blankness which contains everything in potential, but you are not seeing it. These are the two types, and that's the whole problem with the experience of the self. An attribution, it might be the activity of Saguna to the quiescence of the Nirguna. So, but if both are real, both must be either separate aspects of the reality or coordinate aspects, positive and negative poles of the one existence. An error or confusion of mind between them would not be a creative cosmic illusion, but only a wrong perception of realities, a wrong relation created by the ignorance. So, very clear, he is saying that there is a reality here, but you are not seeing what it is. That's the spiritual truth. But the Mayavada is saying there is nothing there and you are seeing something. Okay? So,
we go to the next para.
Yeah. If we scrutinize other illustrations or analogies that are offered to us for a better understanding of the operation of Maya, we detect in them we detect in all of them an inapplicability that deprives them of their force and value. The familiar instance of mother of pearl and silver turns also, like the rope and snake analogy, upon an error due to a resemblance between the present real and another absent real. When you see a shell, you see silver on it, but the silver is not there. So silver exists somewhere else, but it is absent here, but you are seeing it here. That's what he is saying. Okay? So it can have no application to the imposition of a multiple and mutable unreality upon a sole and unique immutable real. Okay? The immutable real is the self. The multiple and mutable reality, unreality, is the world. Okay? So, in the example of an optical illusion, duplicating or multiplying a single object, he is giving the example of the moon. Okay? The moon is one, and its reflection in the physical world is, there are many reflections, many moons. In troubled water, you will see many moons. So that's also the image given by Shankara. Okay. In the example of an optical illusion, duplicating or multiplying a single object, as when we see two moons instead of one, there are two or more identical forms of one object, one real or identical forms of the one object, one real, one or the rest an illusion. This does not illustrate the juxtaposition of world and Brahman. For in the operation of Maya, he is examining now the image of the one moon reflected in waters. And this is a very interesting, slightly different. So it's interesting analysis. It does not illustrate the juxtaposition of world and Brahman. For in the operation of Maya, there is a much more complex phenomenon. There is indeed an illusory multiplication of the identical imposed upon its one and ever unalterable identity, the one appearing as many, but upon that is imposed an immense organized diversity in nature, a diversity of forms and movements which have nothing to do with the original real. So what Sridhar is saying is that the image he is discussing, one moon, and you are seeing several moons here. Is that illustrative of Brahman in the world? Sridhar is saying no, because it's not identical to things you are seeing. You are seeing trees, animals, all sorts of multiplicity you are seeing. So it does not apply. In the other one, you are seeing the same thing multiplied. But here, you are seeing the same thing multiplied, but also other things. As I said, like trees, multiplicity you are seeing. So it doesn't apply. The image doesn't apply. Okay? It's an interesting analysis. Okay? Dreams, visions, the imagination of the artist or poet can present such an organized diversity which is not real. Okay? But it's an imitation, a mimesis of a real and already existent organized diversity, or it starts from such a mimesis, and even the richest variation or wildest invention, some mimetic element is observable. Mimesis is a reproduction of the same thing. It's not something else. The moon and its reflection. The word mimesis means representative image, an imitation.
Okay.
So the moon, and here also you are seeing the moon but multiplied. But the world is not like that.
Now, what is it when he says the artist or poet can present such an organized diversity?
Yes. That is to say, it's not only one thing, but he in his imagination, he can, as I said, trees, flowers, animals, different things he can imagine. Not only one thing. He is discussing the image of the moon and its reproduction in the waters. So that is not illustrative of the world and Brahman. Brahman is one, but is it being reflected at two Brahmans? No. You are seeing many, many things. That's what he's saying. Okay? So, he's saying, dreams, visions, imagination of the artist and poet can present such an organized diversity which is not real. But it's an imitation, a mimesis of a real and already existent organized diversity. Or it starts from such a mimesis, and even the richest variation or wildest invention, some mimetic element is observable. Okay. There is here no such thing as the operation attributed to Maya, in which there is no mimesis but a pure and radically original creation of unreal forms and movements that are non-existent anywhere and neither imitate nor reflect nor alter and develop anything discoverable in the reality. The words are a little confusing, but you remember what we said in the beginning, that in the Mayavada philosophy, what you are seeing is total unreality. So Srila is pointing out that that's not so in different images. He is analyzing all the images that we have seen in Shankara. Okay, so or let me tell you one thing, okay. The poet, he is talking of the poet and the
artist.
Yeah. The poet and the
artist or poet.
Yeah. Okay, so he is saying the poet can also imagine things, and his imagination, it is not real, it's his imagination. But it's not only one thing. He can, multiplicity is there. So that's not illustrative of the reality in the physical world.
But is the imagination real?
Imagination is not necessarily real, okay? Is not necessarily real. It can become a reality. 400 years ago, man imagined aerial transport by aeroplane. So, okay? So that was not a reality then, it's only imagination, but it has become real today. Imagination is a combination of things which do exist, but you are elevating them to something and they don't exist at present.
But if it's a vision, like Da Vinci, then it's a real thing. He saw the helicopter.
He imagined it.
He imagined it or he saw it?
I don't think he saw a helicopter as such.
In his vision?
But he imagined that
but he drew
aerial travel is possible.
Okay.
You have to ask him if he saw a helicopter.
Okay.
Because it's not a helicopter, because it can be a zeppelin, it can be a jet, it can be a balloon, it can be so many things. So, there is nothing in the operations of mind illusion that throws light upon this mystery. It is, as a stupendous cosmic illusion of this kind must be, sui generis. It generates itself, okay? Without parallel. So, in the Mayavada theory, it is sui generis. Your illusion is creating things which don't exist anywhere else, without parallel. Whereas the reality is that there are parallels. Snake exists and rope exists. But in the Mayavada philosophy, none of them exist. Okay? What we see in the universe is that a diversity of the identical is everywhere the fundamental operation of cosmic nature. A diversity of the identical. But here it presents itself not as an illusion, but as a various real formation out of an original substance. So what Srila is pointing out here is that just like the seed and the tree, you don't see anything in the seed, but it can produce only branches and leaves? No, it can produce fruits, it can produce seeds, it can produce flowers. So multiplicity is producing. That's the thing. There is a difference. Okay? What we see in the universe is that a diversity of the identical is everywhere. So, the one is becoming the many, but it's not a mimesis, it's not only a representation. It becomes different things. That's what he's saying. Okay? A diversity, you follow what I'm saying?
Yes.
What we see in the universe is a diversity of the identical. There is one which becomes a many, and this many is not a reproduction. It is many types. It's not like the idea of a dog is there and I have many dogs here. No, it's also producing cats and producing trees and producing other things. So that's a diversity. That image is not there in the Shankara's one moon and two moons. It's only a mimesis. But here it presents itself not as an illusion, but as a various real formation out of one original substance. A reality of oneness manifesting itself in a reality of numberless forms and powers of its being is what we confront everywhere. We see a nirguna which is producing, nirguna is only one, but it is producing multiplicity here, which is quite a different story. Okay, sir. There is no doubt in its process, a mystery, even a magic, but there is nothing to show that it's a magic of the unreal and not a working of a consciousness and force of being of the omnipotent real, a self-creation operated by eternal self-knowledge. So, the one in the reality, the one is creating the many which are also multiple. But in the Mayavada philosophy, it is creating things that exist nowhere. That's what he's saying.
So we'll conclude today, and we thank you all. We will be here again next week, and thank you, Ranga, for such a wonderful explanation.